Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the part number 213A threshold from Pemko. This is what's called a water return threshold is what it is. It is a really neat principle, a really old concept when it comes to thresholds, and we're going to start with taking some dimensional properties of the item, and then we're going to talk about where it's used. So dimensional properties first. Probably two of them are pretty important to you. First of all, what's the height? It's probably the first thing. 1/16" according to Pemko, and that looks to be pretty spot on. The width is 4 inch. That's also going to be really important. Okay, about 4 inch. This is a 6 inch sample piece is all it is for purposes of this video. The door is meant to reside right over the plateau area, right in here. Okay, pretty typical. Going to be in swing. Can it be outswing? Sure, if you want it to be, I suppose, but normally it's going to be an in-swing sort of application. Outswing thresholds you'll see from Pemko will generally have a seal that the door seals against, and the door does indeed swing out. But a water return threshold like this is generally where you have an in-swing door. This would be the exterior, okay? And if it was me, I'd probably be adding a door sweep out here. Now, I would likely be installing a concealed automatic door bottom, a mortised automatic door bottom that will fit inside of the door here and seal right down, maybe a bristle style. The insert would be dependent on what I was trying to keep out, whether it would be driving rain or extreme temperature or maybe critters, you know, insects, scorpions, things of that nature. Depends on where your application is. But obviously a water return threshold is going to be for that principle. So let's talk about exactly where you're probably going to want to consider this now that we've gone over the dimensional properties. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, so dimensional properties for this we've covered. A water return threshold is literally, if any water were to get underneath the door, it would enter the trough here. That's the trough. A typical water return threshold, and we'll show you on this when we switch to the screen view, you're going to have a really small hole drilled right down in here. Maybe 4 of them if you have a 3-foot wide threshold. Then in the leading edge, take a file and just file that about that much. And you're going to have a little notch outside. Water enters here, returns back out this way. That's the whole principle of a water return threshold. That's the entire principle, in fact. And you're going to be able to You will certainly witness thresholds like this for that purpose. I might be, here's the issue. A door sweep on the outside, you're going to want to make contact with the lip here. However, the more that you force that to hang down below the face of the threshold to create a seal, the more you've got to drag over the saddle type, the plateau type portion of the threshold. So a sweep on the outside is not super effective. What I would do is, in addition to my water return principle, now that we've discussed that, I would like the automatic door bottom here. It's concealed. Then I would add a surface-mounted drip cap is what I would put out here. That's probably how I would go about weather stripping this sort of application. Water return thresholds can also come as interlock thresholds where there would be a lip and there would be a hook strip mounted to the bottom of the door or possibly to the face of the door. If it's an L style, it'll be to the face of the door. If it's a J style, to the bottom of the door. And you'll mechanically interlock. And should any water get in through that, there would be a trough behind here. Small holes drilled in the trough. Notch in the face of the threshold. Water comes out. That's the principle. It is an extremely old principle. It's probably 19th century technology would be my guess. The one option that you have to select is whether or not you want a water pan. There are 2 types, aluminum and brass. So you select the base material of the water pan dependent on the base material of the threshold. And it's nothing other than an extremely thin piece of sheet metal that if any water gets in there, it will collect and pool on top of the sheet metal and not whatever you have down here, wood, concrete, whatever it is you don't want standing water on, and then to return that back out. So a water pan, extremely inexpensive. I would opt for it. I would choose to discard it if I didn't use it, but that would be the way I would go about it. If this was the genuine article, there would be holes for the typical, oh, these are probably 1 3/4. Well, they might be longer than that. Yeah, 2 inch. 2 inch long, number 10 flathead wood screws with a Phillips drive. Countersinks would be down in this area. Generally, you'll have one more countersink than you do feet. So if you've got a 3-foot threshold, you should have 4 countersinks and 4 screws provided with that. That's the principle of water return. Let's switch to the screen view. Let's take a closer look at the supporting information. Here is the item that we are looking at. We have some photographs, so let's switch to that. There's a profile of what that looks like. The leading edge. Ridges here, makes that anti-slip. The back end of it showing the trough, but then we'll have a close-up of that trough alone. And yeah, you drill a small hole in here. The genuine article is going to have a small hole drilled in here, a very small hole, a 1/16 of an inch. Then that leading edge will have that notch cut right into it, 3/16 wide, something like that. And if it doesn't, and you want to turn it into a proper water return threshold, that's how you do it. Top of the unit, flipped over. You can see the bottom. Mill, it's just mill aluminum, and then your screw package. Typical screw package. Again, this is just a 6-inch sample piece. Extended description information, designed to catch any water which may blow or run under the door. Sure, does that happen? Maybe not where you live, but here where I live in Southwest Florida, horizontal rain is not unusual certain times of the year. Water returned to the outside through interior weep holes. Down the sloped drain pan, which they do show here, and that's an option. Most people do not opt for those. I don't know why. I would. It's shown here, but it's not included. And then out the exterior weep holes. Printable cut sheet is here. We can take a closer look at that, just showing you the dimensional properties. Nothing new there. All right, let's take a look. This is going to be available in different finishes. Certainly the dark bronze finish it will be available in. Let's take a look. Yeah, indeed, a 213D. Probably other finishes will take... Actually, we can do this. Yeah, it shows our other finishes. A for mill aluminum, bright dip gold, dark bronze, gold, which is more matte, SN for satin nickel. They could certainly do a black powder coat, a dark bronze powder coat, a white powder coat. In some of these finishes, in particular the BDG, may be discontinued by this time. There's a link below this video as seen here. And you click on that, you'll be able to pull up the manufacturer's page. That page is here, where you will be able to review not only all of the Pemko products we sell via that link, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the current full product catalog. Prior versions of the catalog are stuffed in here. There's also a link to Pemko materials and finishes here that will allow you to see a listing of what other finishes and abbreviations mean. Here are the standard finishes. They don't all apply to every item naturally. There's also a link to the A117.1 document, Accessible and Usable Buildings and Facilities. This is a government-sponsored document that talks about what is required for handicap or accessible openings. Obviously, thresholds play a big part in that. This would most definitely not be a handicap-compliant threshold, as it exceeds the maximum height, most certainly. Okay? So a handy link there. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, in conclusion, This is our part number 213A, water return threshold. We don't sell these very often, but, you know, listen, please, driveway, you know, a 2'8" to a 2'10" door to the house, you know, front door of a house, garage, well, maybe not a garage door, but, you know, those sorts of applications. Maybe a, you know, anything ground level would be a real good candidate for a water return threshold. Obviously in those areas where there is rain, whether it be New England or the Midwest or the West Coast or South Florida, you know, you're going to see moisture. You know, if it was maybe San Diego where it rains 5 days a year, you know, maybe I wouldn't be so concerned with a water return principle. But, you know, 10 hours north of there, yeah, I'd be concerned with a water return threshold. And then something to protect your sill underneath. And I would probably want to hook that that drip pan, that water pan, right underneath this area here. And you may have noticed it doesn't sit all the way onto the ground or onto the floor. That's because that water pan needs to have enough room to tuck underneath there, and that's why that is like that. However, to switch gears, if you're not quite sure what you need when it comes to a threshold, by all means take a look at the manufacturer's full-line catalog. They have an extremely comprehensive offering of all types of thresholds. If you're looking for some way to very solidly seal the bottom of the door, you know, look at bump up. Look at bump up that incorporate a interlock. Then add a sweep or an automatic door bottom to that. Belt and suspenders approach, in my opinion, is a good way to go when you're talking about just raw, brute weather sealing. You know, you have a door closer, or if it's fire rated, it will complicate the scenario to a certain degree because that door still needs to close and latch. And lots of weather stripping on a door could be challenging to have a good positive seal, but then a hydraulic cylinder being able to pull that door closed. You know, that kind of thing. Anyway, any questions on the 213 and an A finish or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.